do this.
As we talked about in previous episodes of TiPS, in K-6 environments, emergencies tend to be accidental. But in grades 7 through 12, more often, they're intentional. Adolescence introduces autonomy, mobility, social dynamics, and emotional volatility, coupled with smartphones, social media, and peer-driven decision-making. Today we're going to dive into why middle and high school emergencies look fundamentally different, what police, fire, EMS, and 911 need to be prepared for, and why the safety model must evolve just as fast as the students do. That's all coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a NENA-certified ENP, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we take on the most important and sometimes a bit uncomfortable conversations in emergency communications. This episode's a direct continuation of episode 260123 that focused on K-6 schools. Today we're going to move into grades 7 through 12, middle school, and high school, where emergency response becomes more complex, more dynamic, and frankly more dangerous if we pretend the old models still work. Why grades 7 through 12 is a different world. By the time students reach middle school, they move independently. They start to carry their personal devices. That means they're able to self-report emergencies and make decisions, both good and bad, without adults present. This fundamentally changes everything. Grades 7 through 12 introduce things like more student-initiated 911 calls, and those are likely from cell phones. More peer-to-peer violence, episodes of self-harm and mental health crises, incidents like vaping, drug use, and overdose, and even the unfortunate sexual assault reporting. Weapons threats become introduced, both real and hoaxed, as well as experiences of large-scale fights and crowd behavior. Now, none of these are accidental emergencies. Each one is behavioral, social, and sometimes criminal in nature. Who calls 911 in grades 7 through 12? Previously, in grades K-6, it's typically the staff that calls 911. But in grades 7 to 12, that changes. Students today are more likely to call 911 themselves, and that can create a whole host of new challenges, like the callers being minors but autonomous. The location might be unclear and likely is mobile. Calls to 911 may be whispered, masked, or indirect. And there's a good chance that social media posts may precede many calls. And information about the incident, both right and wrong, is likely to spread faster than responders. Now this is where NG911 capabilities can matter, because voice alone is not often enough. The most common grade 7 to 12 emergency types. Let's talk about reality for a second. In grades 7 to 12, the top drivers for emergency calls are likely to be things like fights escalating into riots, weapons threats, drug distribution, assaults, and active threat assessments. Ones that are EMS related include overdoses, often with an unknown substance, incidents of self-harm, panic attacks that are mistaken for a cardiac event, and sport injuries that have real severity. Calls that involve the fire department include labs and shop class incidents, false alarms that are masking real events, and crowd management during evacuations. All of these incidents require speed, clarity, and coordination, not guesswork. Technology that helps, and technology that may hurt. While in grades 7 through 12, schools may deploy more technology, that technology is not always smarter technology. Technology that helps can include integrated camera systems that can be dynamically tied directly to first responders, mobile panic activation for staff, the implementation of event-based data sharing without requiring constant surveillance, and the introduction of AI technology to assist in detection of anomalies. Technology that can hurt include standalone panic buttons that have no context, excessive alert fatigue among staff, systems that notify parents before responders, and disconnected or non-functioning portals that responders can't access. Student devices that are now part of the response. This is a reality that no one wants to really talk about out loud. But the fact of the matter is student smartphones are already part of the emergency response ecosystem. The question isn't really whether they should be. You don't really have a choice. The question is whether schools and public safety acknowledge them or fight it. While peer-to-peer communication, video sharing, location data, real-time reporting can save lives, they can also confuse responders or do both simultaneously. Not only does the design of the application matter, how it gets used and operationalized can be a significant factor in its success. And that could be something that you've got little or no control over, so buyer beware. Reality check. In grades 7 through 12, safety will fail if we do things like use K-6 policies, or if we apply college campus assumptions. We can't treat students as passive victims, or assume that staff is always going to be present or nearby. Middle and high school students are active participants in emergencies today. That's true whether we plan for it or not. Ignoring that reality doesn't make the school any safer. It just makes responses much slower. The bottom line. Look, grades 7 through 12 are the most complex school safety environments that we work with. That's because this is where childhood ends and autonomy begins. Behavior drives emergencies, and response speed matters the most. And if your safety model doesn't reflect that shift, then it's already outdated. In our next episode, we'll continue this series, moving into higher education and campus environments, where independence becomes the default and once again, the stakes change. That wraps up today's episode of TiPS, Today in Public Safety. Thanks so much for listening. I hope we gave you something to think about your school environment. Remember to follow me on social media at Fletch911 and visit 911tips.com for a complete archive of previous episodes. My blogs are available at Fletch.tv and my professional site is Fletch911.com. Stay safe, thanks so much for listening, and if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. Take care. We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG 911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.